national and international politics, security, extensive economic analysis, interviews, and world power play.
Nigerians must choose the path they want to follow. Follow the same looters and sponsors of violence who control the political structures or encourage the formation of a new leadership team.
Be a global citizen and join the radio revolution on State Affairs. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo. Radio just got deeper. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live.
Good afternoon from State Affairs Studio here in Ibadan. I am Edmond Obilo. Today, we are not talking history and we are not talking power, but somehow we are looking at the instrument of power. That instrument is seen in the policy of government. It is policy that leads to development. When policies are vibrant, the people feel the goodness of government. So what policy are we looking at today? Some have said it's a revolutionary policy. It is about Nigeria's bold policy on compressed natural gas. In a move towards a more sustainable and environmentally conscious future, Nigeria has embarked on a transformative policy aimed at converting fossil fuel engines to compressed natural gas. This groundbreaking initiative not only aligns with global efforts to reduce carbon emissions, but also positions Nigeria as a leader in the adoption of clean energy solutions. But for many Nigerians and analysts, it is also about cost reduction. It's about energy security. It's about economic benefits. Look at it from this point. Leveraging Nigeria's abundant natural gas resources. This policy, if well executed, will foster energy security by tapping into a domestic and reliable source. The shift to compressed natural gas not only reduces the country's dependence on imported oil, but also presents economic advantages, offering cost-effective alternatives for both vehicle owners and the nation's economy. That should interest you. Cost-effective alternatives. Will this create job? Will it lead to technological advancement? Are we about seeing a revolution in the transport sector? What are the general impact on society? Hey, what are the challenges? So to look at this subject with me is a mechanic in the vanguard of this initiative. This mechanic is already talking about the advantages derivable from using compressed natural gas to power our vehicles. Tunde Onakoya, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
Hello, Edmond. It's good to be here.
Good. Tunde Onakoya is of Auto Clinic. compressed natural gas, diesel, petrol. What is the difference?
Well, they're all fuel to start with. It's a source of energy. And if we want to take it back to the basics, the fundamentals of how vehicles will run, they require energy that is stored somewhere. That energy needs to get into the engine and get converted from being chemical to kinetic energy. Heat is generated as part of the byproduct of that, and that's the way it works. So whatever the case is, the principle remains the same from the early 1900s to now. So you have energy that is stored in one form or the other. You have it stored in petrol, in terms of what petrol is, fuel. Petrol gets into the engine, but for it to be used in the engine, it must go through a process called atomization. Now that atomization turns petrol from liquid that it is into gas. And then it is that gas that gets ignited in the combustion chamber that burns. The same thing applies to diesel. Diesel is mixed with oxygen, and then it is compressed under very tough conditions. Apply heat to that, it vaporizes, then combustion happens as well. So it means that for you to actually use any form of fuel in any engine, it must be converted to gas first. So when we now talk about gas powering a vehicle, it means that we are meeting the vehicle at the point where it enjoys the most, because the liquid is not even useful for it in the first place. So we already have gas that is stored in compressed state and ready to move into whatever space that is provided for it, which is in this case now is going to be in the combustion chamber of an engine, and then it ignites. Now, compressed natural gas is you having gas in its almost purest form. It's natural, it's there. Nigeria has it in abundance. So we are now looking at a situation where we can just feed the engines of our vehicles that are thirsty for power with this gas. In its natural state, nothing needs to be done to it than just bottle it up and allow the vehicle run on it. So that's it. That's the difference between petrol, diesel, and gas.
As the removal of subsidy led us to say, okay, necessity is the mother of invention.
Well, I wouldn't say it was the removal of subsidy that brought about this. The National Gas Expansion Program actually has started as far back as 2020 under former President Muhammadu Buhari, where he had already started touting the idea of, you know what, let's power vehicles, let's power plants using gas. There are some companies that today run on gas for their power supply, for their generators. I could recall one major telecoms company recently talked about how he has been able to save about 500 billion naira now from its usual energy demand by just converting most of its generators to run on gas. Meaning gas is cheaper. And it's not new. Again, I want to say to people that the technology of using gas to power vehicles is not new at all. That's a technology that is at least 30 years old in the world.
So what have we been waiting for?
We have been, when people get things for free or generally get it for cheap, that's what we do. We don't care. Look at the same thing is applicable when you go to the US, for example. People in America are not running their vehicles on gas because they can afford gas. Even when gas is expensive, they will complain about it, drive smaller cars, but they still just want their gas-powered vehicles. That is petrol now. So we, over the years, I could recall about 10 years ago, about 12, 13 years ago, I had a vehicle that ran on LPG gas. I brought it into the country, running on LPG, and I maintained the system for about 8 years before I let the vehicle go. and I didn't have a problem running it on gas. This has always been in existence. It's just now that maybe the economic indicators now have now said, guys, you need to go back and look at it. We are slow in the adoption, I must say. Ghana has been running a lot of their taxes on gas over time. Egypt has been doing the same for a very long time. Turkey, a lot of taxes, even in Turkey, has been, and a lot of Eastern European countries as well, have been running on gas for a very long time.
Now let's look at this. What's the difference between compressed natural gas and liquefied petroleum gas, LPG?
Okay. So LPG is the cooking gas that we have in the house. You have propane, methane, butane. Those are the major components that you have in that. And it is stored in liquid form. So you notice that cylinder, if you shake it, you can feel the movement of liquid in there. It's stored in liquid form, low pressure, not much of pressure in there, and all of that. But compressed natural gas, in this case now, the pressure for compressed natural gas can go up to 300 psi. That is the pressure that is going to be stored in. The tank it is stored in is totally different from the tank you have in the house. The tank for your cylinder in the house is different from that of compressed natural gas because it's under immense pressure and it's mostly in pure gas format. Pure gas is what you have in there, and it has to be stored under those special pressure so that you can get the quantity you need. It's going to have to pack a lot of calories in there. So that's the major difference you have between the two.
From what Tunde Onakoya has explained, compressed natural gas is a clean burning alternative fuel made by compressing natural gas to less than 1% of its volume at standard atmospheric pressure.
Yes.
It is primarily composed of methane, and it is considered one of the most environmentally friendly fuels available.
Yes. It is extremely environmentally okay. If you want to look at what methane is, so what comes out of, even if you gather waste, that is biodegradable waste. We're talking about your banana peel, orange peel, and all forms of fruit waste. And you put them in a dump site where you can allow them to compost. The gas they give off is methane. That's natural gas. And that is why some people are able to convert animal waste and human waste into methane and use it to cook in their house.
What we call biogas.
Biogas. That's what it is. That's natural gas.
Interesting.
That's natural gas. We have it in abundance.
And it burns so clean.
Yes, it is. It burns. You see the blue flame?
Yeah.
And it burns very efficiently. That's it. We have it.
So that is what we want to use for our vehicle.
That's what we want to use for our vehicle. It is now the process now. You know, for you to use it to cook in the house, you just need to get the pipe to flow, the gas will flow, and then you can burn it in the house. But now for automotive application now, you have to compress it so that you can get so much volume in terms of calorific value into that cylinder, so that when the vehicle demands that power, the amount of gas in terms of calories that is dispensed to the engine is sufficient to power a car.
So now
That's the difference.
let's come to the cars.
Okay.
Are we converting the cars or we are modifying them?
We're simply modifying. We're not converting the cars, because the cars will still have the flexibility of running on either petrol or natural gas, whichever one. Either you use CNG or petrol. The two will not mix at any point in time. So once you push that button on it, what you see happen is that it either shuts off the natural gas flow or it shuts off petrol flow, and your vehicle will run on either one of the two.
What button are you talking about?
Now, there's going to be an actuator in the process of this installation. That's why I tell people that semantics matter a lot in this. Every time people keep saying conversion suggests that probably you want to render the old system useless and install something new on it. No, this system is going to run parallel to the system you have on the vehicle. So you are going to have your petrol tank still remaining where it is with your fuel pump, but you will now have an additional tank that you will put in the boot of the vehicle that will contain this CNG. Its own piping will run the same way your petrol pipe is running, parallel to it, and it will get into the engine bay. it will have its own nozzles, separate from your petrol nozzles, that will be installed on the vehicle. And then it will have its own computer that controls its flow, the same way you have a computer that controls your vehicle. Then it will now have a switch. That is where the intersection is now. There will now be a switch inside the vehicle that allows you to select if you want to use the CNG or you want to use the petrol. But there's also an automatic switchover system that is integrated there, that should you run out of CNG, you won't even know. You just switch automatically to petrol and your vehicle keeps running.
Just like that?
Just like that. So you will not feel a lag. You will not feel a difference. You will just notice that, oh, this indicator shows that I'm now on petrol. Means I must have run out of gas. Of course, you will have seen that your gas gauge is empty. It is seamless and you don't have to stop the vehicle to do that.
Now, you've just talked about gas gauge.
Yes.
Where would that gauge be on the dashboard?
You have it on that switch itself. There are going to be indicators on it that shows the level of gas you have in there.
So where do you place the switch?
The switch is going to be close to the driver, where you can just like you push any other switch, the driver switch, you push your defroster, you just got to have something similar. Small switch right there that shows you all this.
Who does this?
Of course, there's somebody that is trained to do that. You have to be trained to know how to do this safely, effectively, and efficiently. Once you are trained, you can do that.
This is a policy of government.
It's a policy of government to actually make us run more on natural gas that is cheaper, is in abundance in Nigeria, and is environmentally friendly. So that's what it is.
When you say abundance,
Yes.
Where? From where?
From the ground. We have natural gas. We have it from the ground. In fact, in the entire Niger Delta where oil is being prospected, natural gas is being wasted, flared. That's what it is.
So the gas flaring.
Gas flaring, that's natural gas we're flaring. We're just wasting it, which could be firing up factories, powering vehicles. In fact, I'll tell you, there's a major logistics company in Nigeria that has 90% or more of its trailers running on CNG as we speak, and has been doing that for more than almost a decade now. And they find it cheaper, find it more efficient, and they find out that the engines of those trucks actually lasts longer because there's less pollutants in natural gas than you have in petrol. Don't forget, the quality of petrol that is imported into Nigeria is still a problem.
What's wrong with the quality?
It's low. I mean, it's very, very low. I'd recall there was a Guardian UK article in the year 2020 that was published wherein a research was done. It was a study, and they realized that the quality of fuel that is imported into Nigeria is worse than the quality of fuel produced at the illegal refineries in the Niger Delta. Fuel that would not be acceptable in any European country, or even African countries at that, are being imported into Nigeria.
Why are we accepting the fuel?
Because we seem not to care about the standards. You'd recall, in those days growing up, you could choose the quality of fuel you wanted. Super, premium, unleaded, you make your choice at the gas station. That's been eliminated over time now. It's just whatever you see in the filling station is what you buy.
But in places like Kenya, you have that option.
In Ghana, that option is there still, till today.
So what is wrong with Nigeria?
Nigeria has chosen that anyhowness is how we want to practice and live our lives. It is a principle or doctrine of anyhowness. Whatever comes, we'll take it.
Are we improving on it?
We haven't. So far, we haven't. In fact, from the 70s to now, we could say when it comes to that policy, we have been retrogressing. Because we used to have that option, now it's no longer there.
Things are getting worse?
Things have gotten worse in terms of the quality of fuel we have been bringing to Nigeria. And look at it. There was a time, it could be 2021 or I can't recall now, where there was adulterated fuel, quote unquote, that came into Nigeria, ruining people's vehicles, ruining people's finances, because a lot of vehicles went down in that process and they really messed up vehicles. In fact, I'll tell you, I'd say conservatively, about 50% of vehicles we still fix in the workshop still today are dealing with field-related problems. And a lot of mechanics will confirm that to you.
So what are mechanics like you doing to raise the alarm?
We have consistently raised alarms. We have written about it. We have spoken about it in forums like this. But it just seems like we're not ready for it yet as a people. Because I would say right now, there is no reason for which Nigerians should not be consistently protesting now and asking questions. What quality of fuel is being imported into Nigeria, especially that we are paying premium for that fuel right now? This is the time to ask those questions.
We are paying premium.
We are.
For bad fuel.
For bad fuel. That's the question. So every time they say fuel is so cheap in Nigeria, I ask the question, what grade of fuel are we talking about? People buy brand new cars in Nigeria today and drive it for 6 months, 1 year, and they are beginning to have fuel-related issues on those vehicles. Sometimes we open up the tank of vehicles, we take the fuel pump out, and it is totally damaged. And what is damaging it? Simple. Fuel quality. People are having issues of check engine light on their vehicles today, which they normally would not have if their catalytic converters were working well and the oxygen sensors were performing well. What is fouling these catalytic converters? Quality of fuel. People are replacing spark plugs at 10,000 kilometers or less today, when some iridium spark plugs could do 100,000 miles on vehicles. But in Nigeria, it cannot, because that spark plug will overheat, because the quality of the fuel being used is not cooling that spark plug down as it's supposed to. So it is a myriad of problems that people are facing that are fuel-related issues in Nigeria, and we don't know. And I will say that from my experience, I have driven across West Africa, and I have bought fuel into my car in Nigeria and in some other West African countries. And every time I buy fuel in those West African countries and drive my car, I notice the significant difference in the performance of my car.
And you have said compressed natural gas makes the engine cleaner.
Yes.
How?
Now, because it's in natural form, it's already in gaseous form, so it is introduced into the engine in the quantity the vehicle requires. It is also pure fuel. I want to use that word, pure fuel. So it means that the excess carbon buildup in the engines are not going to happen, because it doesn't happen like that when you have pure fuel going in. Part of the characteristics of fuel should be that it should clean up the combustion chamber. Now, with compressed natural gas, it is going there in that form, the raw form that the vehicle requires it to be. So one of the problems with maintenance of vehicles is that you notice that after a while, the engine oil of your car changes color from whatever it was before, maybe golden brown, it turns black or begin to foul.
Yes.
What changes the color of that fuel really is the carbon blow-by, we call it blow-by gases, that is coming into the engine oil from the combustion chamber from the petrol you are using. So the quality of petrol determines how quickly your oil degrades. That's engine oil. Now with natural gas now, you do not have that degradation that is taking place as rapidly as that. Now when you have that oil that has degraded and you don't even service your vehicle on time, one of the challenges you will have is that your engine begins to wear drastically compared to what it will be. And that is when you say, oh, I've used the car for 2-3 years, the engine has knocked. Because the oil is no longer able to provide that lubrication. But with natural gas now, if you usually would service at 3,000 kilometers, by the time you've driven your vehicle with natural gas for 3,000 kilometers, go back and look at the oil. The oil will still be in such a state that could push you to 5,000 kilometers. So it's saving you that money on frequent servicing.
President Bola Tinubu, during his 1st October Independence Day broadcast, said new compressed natural gas conversion kits will start coming in very soon, as all hands are on deck to fast-track the usually lengthy procurement process. Tinubu said a new chapter has been flipped in the public transport sector through the deployment of cheaper, safer CNG, and he feels that this is a game changer. Now, the president talks about conversion kits. If you have to convert a vehicle, you need conversion kits.
Yes.
But you are saying it's not conversion.
It's installation.
Installation kits.
Yes.
Okay.
That should be the proper word.
Installation kits.
Yes.
Now, if you are installing, my vehicle is still fine. I can decide to uninstall.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And it won't affect my vehicle.
Only the only part of your vehicle that requires that modification would be one, the space you put the tank in the boot. Of course, when you put the tank in the boot, you have to fasten it down. So you would get belts that will fasten it down in there. So to do that, there would be special provisions for that. You can remove that. The second modification comes from you now having to, on the intake manifold of those vehicles, we will have to drill a precision hole on them, close to the nozzles, for the gas nozzles to be accommodated. Now, should you choose to uninstall, all that will be required would be to remove those nozzles for the gas, also from that side. Seal up that hole, and if you want to make it more efficient, replace that intake manifold, which is usually not expensive, and you're good to go. You're back to where you were before. Nothing else. So there's attachment here and there. You pick signal from here, you pick power from here, you pick this from here, and that's all.
Now tell me about the installation kit. What is it about?
Okay, so the installation kits are apparatuses that are an apparatus that is actually required for the gas system to function. So you have the tank itself, which is perhaps the most expensive part of of it because of the materials they are made of.
When you say tank, do you mean the cylinder?
The cylinder.
Good.
Yes. So it's heavy. We must say that.
Okay.
Because it has to be reinforced to handle the pressure of gas that will be stored in there.
So it's heavier than the cylinder for liquefied natural gas.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it makes the car heavier at the end of the day.
Of course it does make the car heavier.
Okay.
But if we're talking about heavy, don't forget that to reduce weight on a lot of vehicles, manufacturers chose to use plastic parts here and there.
Yeah.
Also, there are vehicles that don't come with spare tires just to make them lighter. So if you have already chosen to use spare tires on your vehicle, you already know that your vehicle is heavier.
Good.
Usually, the average weight of the tanks is maybe between 30 and 50 kilos, which
That's
is about
heavy.
That's about a bag of cement. Come on, that's about a bag of cement. It's not so heavy.
Okay.
And that is usually less than the weight of an average adult that you put in the vehicle and carry around all the time. So yes, about that. So then you have a valve that is on the cylinder at the back. And when we're talking about those valves, we need to understand that some of these things are safety features for the gas system. So you have a valve there that you can open and close that allows the flow of natural gas in case you want to service the system. Then you have, of course, you have the pipes that would carry the natural gas from there to the front of the vehicle. That's where the engine is. In the engine bay, you will need a sequencer. Now, the sequencer is that which allows the flow of gas to come in at very high pressure, but adjusts it to what the vehicle needs only. So you have that sequencer. You also have a control unit. That is a computer now for the gas system that monitors it and makes sure it is working as it should work. You would calibrate it as you desire as a technician for the vehicle to run smoothly. So you have that. Then you have the gas nozzles that you will have to install on the vehicle to allow you to be able to, dispense the gas into the engine as needed. You would pick signal from the crankshaft, of course, for spark so that the gas system will know that this engine is running at this time. You will need a manifold absolute pressure sensor that will be installed there that will monitor the volume of gas that is being drawn in to the engine. Of course, you also want to pick signal for temperature to know how hot the engine is and all of that. All of these are technical stuff that will be done by a trained technician to do this. So that's what the installation is about. So when we talk about the kit, all these components I'm mentioning now is what will come with the kit that you will now use to install the gas system on the vehicle.
Now, these installation kits, where are they coming from? Are we manufacturing them here in Nigeria?
Do we really manufacture anything in Nigeria? Even our cooking gas cylinders that we've been using for donkey years, do we manufacture them in Nigeria yet? That's a tough question. Kits are coming imported into the country. We have them from India. We have them from Italy. We have them from China. We have them from every other person that manufactures but us.
Remember, Buhari has been talking about this policy.
Yes.
In the last 3 years.
Yes.
How come we're not thinking of building facilities to manufacture the kits?
If we have been talking about it for 3 years, have we even built facilities for the conversion? Did we in that 3 years build CNG dispensing stations? We did not. We did not prepare for this policy. That's a fact.
How come we are not always prepared?
Because we always go using this fire brigade approach to everything.
Buhari has been talking about this. Even Timi Priyesiva, the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State Petroleum under Buhari, was singing about this.
But do not forget this. When the National Gas Expansion Program was put in place in 2020, there was a confusion at that time, if you will observe very well. They kept on talking about auto gas, gas for vehicles. The government was not decisive on if it was CNG they were going to approach or LPG. At that point, they threw everything into the ring, both CNG and LPG, forgetting the fact that LPG will be seriously competing with household consumption. That's going to be a big problem. And also, at the end of the year like this, when the cold season comes in, LPG becomes more expensive in Nigeria because demand for gas in Europe to heat increase drastically. And oftentimes we can't compete with that consumption because we can't afford it as much as they will. That drives the price of gas up. But government was indecisive on which one to pick of the two. The Minister for Petroleum then was talking CNG. The Office of the Vice President was talking LPG. It was just confusion all over the place. So we didn't at first conclude on what we were going to use. In fact, when this initiative started as well, before it became a full CNG initiative, it started out as a gas initiative. But at that time, the price of gas was about 500 and something naira. Now, gas is about 1,100, 1,300 per kilo. And that's a problem.
So the kits are coming from outside the country?
They're coming from outside the country, yes.
So are they available in Nigeria?
Sparingly available. That's the word I want to use. Because there has been a confusion since the policy was announced. The confusion is that government says it wants to bring its own kit in.
You heard Tinubu here.
Exactly. If I am a business person, I have no idea what government wants to do with the kits they are bringing in. Are they selling or giving it out? If they are going to sell, can I be competitive if I import these kits and I want to start selling? Can I compete with government? I can't. So is there an incentive for me to bring in kits in large quantity to sell as well? I might as well wait to see what government will do before I take my own business decision. Otherwise, I could lose a lot of money. And that has been the biggest challenge of kit availability. But oftentimes now, when we get requests that, see, I want to convert my vehicle, I'm not going to wait for government to do this. Then we say, okay, fine, we'll get you the kit. But we know, as a matter of fact as well, that the cost of this kit we are bringing in has gone up for two main reasons. One, because we are not importing large quantity, we are air freighting these kits. Now, the cylinder alone weighing about 50 kg, you can imagine what the cost of air freighting 50 kg of cylinder alone for CNG will be. Then we get to the airports as they come in. Customs demands for you to pay a duty and tax on it. Meanwhile, the president has announced that part of the initiative is removal of taxes and duties for conversion or installation kits, as it were. But that is not being implemented. For every kit I have been privy to bringing into this country, duty has been paid, and it is not cheap.
So what is the range, the duty paid on a kit?
Usually they would do it based on the volume of what you bring in. And I recall that the last shipment was about 30 kits that were brought in, and the request for duty was about between 9 and 11 million naira to be paid as kit, as duty on it.
And you will transfer that to the consumer?
Who's going to pay for it? As a businessman, you want to make profit, you have to transfer that to the consumer. Compared to, sometimes the cost of this clearing can compete with the cost of the kit itself.
We'll come back to the policy. Why should I convert my car from fossil fuel to
natural gas,
compressed natural gas?
The question is, why not? Do you want your vehicle to run more efficiently? Do you have money to replace your vehicle if it goes bad now, considering the current exchange rate? Do you have money to replace the engine of your vehicle now if it goes through rapid wear and tear? Do you want your engine to run cleaner? Do you want to save money? That's the bottom line. If all of this, let's talk about, do you want to save money?
Talk about save money. How?
It's simple. Natural gas, CNG in Nigeria is very cheap. CNG in Nigeria is about 50 to 90 naira per liter. That's what we'll call it now, because it's actually calibrated in SCM. That's square per cubic centimeter. That's what it's calibrated in. But of course, you can equate that. One SCM will be about 1.6 liters or thereabout. So now per liter is running to about maybe 50 to 90 naira per liter. Now this is a caveat, and I'd like to talk about this all the time. 60 liters of CNG is not equivalent of 60 liters of petrol. That's very important so that we don't mislead people out there. 60 liters of petrol carries more calorific value in terms of energy density than 60 liters of natural gas. However, for an area where you consume 100 liters of petrol, you probably will consume about 160 to 180 liters of CNG to cover the same.
Almost half.
Almost half is what you require in petrol. But if you now come back and do the mathematics of the price, now 100 liters of petrol is 60,000 naira. 100 liters of CNG is just you talking about 5,000 naira or thereabouts. So by the time you spend 20,000 naira on CNG, you have gotten the same value you get from 60,000 naira of petrol. That is where it makes sense. So yes, you will refill faster than you refill your petrol. So because they don't carry the same energy density, so you need maybe 1.5 times the volume of petrol you need in natural gas. But natural gas is about 10% the cost of petrol. So it makes sense.
And are you sure the cost will not rise with rise in demand?
Now, because we have it in abundance.
We have petrol in abundance.
We do not. We have crude oil in abundance. In fact, we do not have crude oil in abundance. We also do not. Because we're not even producing enough to meet the quota that we have been given to produce. We have made it rocket science to produce petrol. Other countries
But we know they steal it.
But other countries are cutting down production. We are struggling to ramp up production.
We know they steal it.
Yes, we do. We know they steal it. So we don't have enough crude oil, quote unquote. Recall the headlines that came up in the past few weeks talking about we don't even have enough crude oil to supply Dangote refinery. That's locally in Nigeria. We don't even have crude because it requires about 650,000 barrels of crude per day. We can barely give him 200.
I'm not smiling, though. You can see smile on my face.
So we have a dilemma there in the first place. We don't have enough crude. We don't have abundance of petrol. Today, if you go to almost every petrol station in Ibadan, there are still queues here and there because we don't have sufficient supply because we are importing. We keep importing. And even when we import, importation is not enough.
Are you sure we're not going to import gas?
Why will we? We don't have to produce natural gas. All we have to do is bottle natural gas. We just have to bottle it. That's all we need to do. So it makes very little sense for us not to look at the future of this. And the future of it is the fact that we have this in abundance. We've been flaring it over the years. We could actually do better with it. And that's what we are doing. And fortunately now, a lot of private individuals have shown interest in building gas plants for natural gas as well. The mistake we keep making, and that's why we need to be introspective as people, is that people are making certain complaints. Hey, if I convert my car to gas, where will I see gas to buy? Okay, if that's your question, you want the cart before the horse is what you're asking for. Because it is not profitable for me as a person to install a gas plant when there is no demand for it. Demand will bring about supply. If we have, in the whole of Ibadan, I don't think we have 10 vehicles that run on CNG. If I build a million naira gas station for that purpose, how much of gas am I going to sell per week? It makes no business sense. But the more the demand is, the more there will be need for you to actually put more. We did not build fuel stations before we started buying cars. We bought cars and built fuel stations.
So the campaign now is to convince
People.
car users
Yes, to move towards CNG.
To CNG.
Yes. When Dangote at some point did a lot of conversion, almost all his trucks run on CNG. Dangote built stations. There's one in Obajana that he built for his trucks. Station to dispense CNG. In fact, one of our colleagues recently was going to Abuja with a vehicle that was running on CNG, drove into that gas plant in Obajana to buy gas. I was going to buy about 65 liters, and they sold it to him and told him to go. I said, "You are not going to collect money." They said, "That quantity is too small for us to collect money from you." Because their trucks probably will take 1,000 liters at a time, 2,000 liters at a time, and you are buying 65. Okay, just take this gas and go, Jerry. Because, which filling station today can give you petrol like that? It's because of how cheap natural gas is that they just take the 65 liters and go, my friend. That tells you how cost effective this can be in the long run. And I say this, even when you convert, and it's expensive at the moment to convert because we're importing the kits via air freight, we're not bringing in so much quantity. Even if you do it the expensive way now, you'll recoup your money in less than 12 months if you're somebody who drives a lot.
If you are just joining the broadcast, I am discussing with Tunde Onakoya, the mechanic. Tunde Onakoya is of Auto Clinic. We are talking about compressed natural gas. The implementation of the CNG conversion policy has the potential to stimulate job creation and foster technological advancement. As the demand for CNG infrastructure, retrofitting services, and maintenance grows, new employment opportunities arise, contributing to a vibrant and innovative workforce. It can trigger transportation revolution with the first conversion of fossil fuel engines to CNG. Nigeria envisions a revolution in its transportation sector. From public transport fleets to private vehicles, the transition to CNG aligns with Nigeria's vision of a modern, efficient, and environmentally friendly transportation network. But the issue now is Nigeria driving the policy efficiently? Tunde says no. And we need to. Nigeria's commitment to CNG conversion is reinforced by strategic partnerships and the adoption of global best practices. Are we following standards? Time will tell. Are we collaborating with international entities? Are we sharing knowledge? Are we learning from successful models around the world? These are some of the questions that Tunde Onakoya will answer as we go. You can leave your questions. Tunde is here to answer them. The lines are also open. If you have any question for Tunde, you can call the studio lines. They are pinned to this broadcast. So call in, ask your question. Abeza Chaso Bina, thank you for joining the broadcast. Rufai Abdulaziz Abiodun is watching. Ugumola Adebowale Bolaji, how are you today? And this is coming from Omotayo Oluwarotimi Onobamiro. He says, good afternoon to Tunde Onakoya. Chris Umeji, how are you today? Tululokwe Ezife, what a combination. Tululokwe Ezife, okay, that's a good one. Jagaban Jr. is watching, so who is the senior here? Christian Ohiri, how are you today? Dakwawe, thank you for joining the broadcast. Justice Emeka is watching. Remember, you can always subscribe to my YouTube account, because we are going to move this interview to YouTube and continue the analysis. We'll take it to Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. We will share the videos on Thread. So follow me on those platforms. Search for Edmond Obilo on those platforms. Amadi Lawson, good afternoon. How is Germany, Amadi? Are you already using gas-powered vehicle? Amadi, tell me. I want to hear from you. Please, can you talk about the cost too? All right. Tunde Onakoya. So what is the cost? Somebody wants to know.
Cost of what exactly?
If I want to convert my vehicle to a gas-powered vehicle,
Okay.
what will it cost me?
The cost is very subjective, very extremely subjective. One, it starts with what quantity, what kind of cylinder, what size of cylinder would you want? There's 30 liters, 40, 60, 75, 100, what size? Of course, we would recommend what we think is suitable for your vehicle, especially so you don't put too much weight in the trunk or the boot of the vehicle. That's one. Number two, is this a 4-cylinder, an L4 engine, a V6 engine, or a V8 engine? That will determine, is it a car, is it a truck? All of that will come into play in the conversion process, because those are the things that will determine the final cost of your conversion. So if I want to give you a blanket cost right now, it would be me just being preemptive without having the facts.
So let's use a car like a Highlander, for example.
Okay, a Highlander V6.
Okay.
The tank size that will be recommended will be maybe minimum of about 60 liters is a tank that will be recommended. Of course, the V6 nozzle, the sequential, and everything will be installed on it. At the moment now, if the kit is air freighted into Nigeria, the kit and the cost of installation could go north of about 1.8 million naira to do.
1.8.
That is as at today. Now, the reality is that this is not ordinarily supposed to be worth more than 550 to 600,000.
So why is it that expensive?
Like I said, you air freight and you pay duty. You put those two together, the cost goes through the roof. That's the challenge. So we need that 10 million kits that the government says they want to bring in. Let them bring it in. Let them make it available. Let people be able to buy them for cheaper. And then the cost of conversion will drop drastically. Even if I'm an independent person, a businessman that wants to bring in these kits now, I can benchmark and say, whatever I want to bring in should not be more expensive than what government has brought in. So how do I bring my costs down? Am I buying from the wrong place? Can I get a manufacturer to produce a large quantity for me and use shipping containers to bring them in by sea? Can I negotiate waivers with the government in terms of duty that is not supposed to be there according to the presidential proclamation? Now, by the time I do all of this, I can then know that, okay, this is what my cost will be. But if we are not doing that, the cost of installation will continue to go up and become volatile, especially in reaction to the exchange rate and the custom. Don't forget, custom duty is also benchmarked in US dollars. So whatever you bring in, customs look at the dollar value and uses it to give you the naira value of what you are going to pay.
Interesting.
So if the government wants to do things and make it easier for everybody, get the agencies of government on board. And that's the shocking part to me. Why agencies
Should we get them on board, or they should be on board? It's not a government policy.
Well, in Nigeria, one of the things we have gotten used to hearing is, oh yes, we heard that policy is in place as well, but we haven't gotten the circular. Have you not heard that before?
I have heard that
So
many times.
is that not how it works?
There's something wrong with government processes.
Fundamentally wrong with that. Bureaucracy is an amazing
And
thing.
it seems no government can change it.
See, in my opinion, Edmond, I say this all the time, and this is me talking as a management consultant. Bureaucracy is beautiful, but when bureaucracy is poorly implemented in any system, it becomes an Achilles heel for that system. Like Bill Gates said, he said, if you have a fantastic system and you automate it, it makes life easy for everybody. He said, but if you have a bad system and you now automate a bad system, he said everybody is going to see hell. And that's what we are seeing in Nigeria. So the president makes a pronouncement, but you are going to be told that a circular needs to come from the presidency to the ministry. And the ministry will now duplicate that circular and send to its departments and agencies before those things can take effect. And sometimes you even take a circular, a government publication to a government institution and say, this is what the government has said. And they say, yes, we too heard about it, but we haven't seen the circular.
It also shows that government is not serious.
Simple.
Because if you were serious and you have initiated a policy, all departments should be on board immediately.
It's simple as that. In fact, there should be a line that people should reach out to. Should anybody charge you tax on CNG installation kits, call this line, report to this place. That way, the customs is directly under the Ministry of Finance. So it should be straightforward. When a policy comes from the president, the Minister of Finance is aware of it, it should be automatically that this will cascade down the line. But that's not what we're experiencing.
Let's look at the expertise.
Okay.
Installing the kits.
Yes.
One needs to be an expert to do that.
Yes, you need to be.
Do we have enough experts?
We can't. You see, Edmond, I've always said that when you always advocate, let's bring back the industries. I hear you say that all the time. But when those industries come in, do we have properly and well-trained people in terms of vocational and technical education in Nigeria to benefit from these policies? Do not forget when some contractors recently were telling us that we do not have qualified plumbers in Nigeria to work on their projects. The question is, do we really have qualified plumbers? No, we don't. Because we have turned everything to, like I said again, anyhowness. Why should a plumber not be able to get certification and get continuous professional development annually from institutions that will show them this is the new way and the modern way of doing it and get certification for it? We don't have that right now.
We are suffering from lack of visionary leadership.
It's simple as that. Because every time we want to replicate a cocoa house today, we never think that to replicate a cocoa house, we need 10,000 masons. We need 500 well-trained electricians. We need this, we need that. Do they exist? No. You know what we do? We start building the cocoa house.
Can you see the kind of structures we build these days? The walls are bent. I'm beginning to ask.
Did you not hear of the anyhowness?
No.
Do you recall the parable of the shower head by Pius Adesomi? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Went to a hotel. He went to the shower. He opened it. Noticed that just some of the holes on the shower were just trickling. They were not flowing properly. And then he called the reception and said, my shower is not working. And they said, oh, it's a 5-star hotel in Abuja for that matter. And then he said, oh, somebody would come up and attend to it immediately in 5 minutes. Efficiently in 5 minutes, the gentleman showed up, which is beautiful service. Then the gentleman went into the bathroom, came back out and said, sir, but you said the shower head is not working now. He said at that time, he realized that, I think I made a mistake of inviting him and telling him it's not working. Because where do I start from to explain to a plumber, a trained plumber, that it is not okay for some of the holes on the shower head not to work? Because the plumber sees that so long as water is coming out, albeit inefficiently, shower head is working. So if you have 20 holes on the shower head and 10 is coming out, in Nigeria, your shower is working. That is supposed to be a problem, but we don't see it as a problem. And that is why we need to institutionalize. I've continuously said this. Vocational and technical education is what I do not hear enough of from government. If we want to build this country, we need to focus a lot on that, because no matter what happens in a country, even during the war, you will need technicians to get the war running. The Queen was a mechanic in this First World War. So you need mechanics, you need plumbers, you need masons, you need tilers, you need painters, you need electricians to run any economy. No economy can run without vocational and technical education, artisans. But we are not paying any attention to streamline their working, training them, giving them proper certification so that they can compete internationally.
Auto clinic that you run
Yes.
is paying attention
Yes, we are.
to this policy. You are organizing training.
Yes, we are.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so the training that we are organizing is to be able to give people the necessary skills, the requisite skills and knowledge to be able to do the installation of CNG and LPG on vehicles. Should the owner choose his LPG once, you're going to get training for the two. But our focus will be on CNG. Now, this training, we are doing it in collaboration with other people because we have been trained as trainers. So what we are trying to do now is now, since we are trainers, we already trained on how to do this. We have done this. We can teach people how to do this. We organized the first edition, which happened in Lagos in September of this year. We had about 100 plus people attend that training. Some of them now are installing stuff all over the place. We moved from there to Abuja. Did another training, same September. People attended. We moved on from there. But I was worried about one thing. We're doing this in Lagos, we're doing this in Abuja. With my colleagues that we do together, I'm there as a trainer too. Why can't this come to Ibadan? That's the question. What is wrong with having this training in Ibadan? As far as I know, maybe the place that I put Ibadan in my heart is totally different. I see Ibadan as the capital of southwest Nigeria. And if Ibadan is that place, people should defer to Ibadan. That's why it's a pay-status state.
Yeah.
So we're bringing this training to Ibadan. And what do we want to achieve? We will do the training, train people on how to do this, and in the process convert vehicles, as the word is convert. In this case, we are installing CNG on at least 2 vehicles in the course of this training, showing them, not just telling them how it should be done, but showing them how it is being done. And those vehicles will be on the road of Ibadan, plying the road of Ibadan.
So after that training,
Yes.
anyone that is attentive
Yes.
can begin to install after that training?
Okay, this is where I like to be very careful about that. And the reason is that we understand, and this is what we have seen over the previous trainings we have done, that you see, this auto gas ecosystem requires a lot of people. There is a value chain in this business of it, because we need to understand the auto gas installation is a business and there's a value chain there. Some people after this training will be knowledgeable enough to play anywhere in that ecosystem. You can decide to sell gas kits. You can decide to do maintenance. You can decide to just go collect the contract, give to somebody else to do. You can decide to run a workshop that can do that. You can decide to convert for people or install for people yourself. There are several points in the value chain that requires people.
And that's job creation.
It's job creation. So it's not just everybody that comes will go ahead and be installing for people. No, you can play in other parts of that value chain that you will still make your money from. So anybody that comes for this training would have gotten sufficient knowledge to be a part of that ecosystem.
And that's technological development.
That's technological development. So what happens afterwards is this. As we are getting more trainings done, and we're getting more installations done, all the alumni of this training we are doing, we are bringing them together. You as a person must have carried out at least 5 installations on your own before we give you the final certificate saying you are now fully fit to do installation on your own. The
installation
first
on whose vehicle?
On customers' vehicles.
So how are you going to
make sure they do it right?
Yes.
The first set of installation they will be doing will be under strict supervision. We want to ensure that people are doing the right things. Unfortunately, our people, and it's not just a Nigerian problem, people like cutting corners a lot. This is precision engineering. We need people to do the right thing at the right time. And that's why part of what we do during our autogas training is we talk about ethics and ethos of doing this business. There are rules.
What are the rules?
There are ethics. Now, part of it includes that you are not going to cut corners. You are going to use the right kits. You are going to install brackets where there should be brackets. You will drill holes where there should be holes drilled. You would use a tap and die system because you need to know how to use it properly. You will not try to use makeshift equipment to do things that should not be done, you will position the controller, for example, the brain box, in a place where heat will not damage it. It's very important. When you are installing the sequencer, you want to ensure that the pipes you are using to install the sequencer are the recommended ones that came with the kit, and then you are fastening them properly to the proper torque. So we talk about all of this and tell people this is the rules and the guideline of doing it. You know what? Before you get the final, you will get your initial certificate of participation. But before we will tell you are certified to do this. We will, under supervision, watch you do this number of installation. We will rate it. We will pass you. Then you will get that final certificate. Because you don't want to do it haphazardly.
So how can people participate in this training?
It's simple. They have to register for the training and pay for the training. The registration is simple. bit.ly/autogasIB.
Can you say that again?
bit.ly/autogasIB. Everything in small letters. You go on there, you see a form that you can fill. Very short form. You fill it in less than a minute. Fill out the form. We'll get your information from that. On that form, you also get the details of the payment, of how much you are going to pay, which is 150,000 naira for the training. And you would also see the details of the bank that you'll be paying into that. You do that registration, we will contact you almost immediately to let you know that, oh, we have seen your registration. We will put you into a WhatsApp group with other people that have registered, and we'll begin to share information with you immediately in preparation for the training, because there are certain things we want you to know even before you come for the training.
So the training starts when?
On the 11th of December, 2023.
How many days training?
5 days, and it's going to be very intensive. 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day.
Location?
It's going to be inside NMPC gas station. That's on Queen Elizabeth 2 in Agodi. But that's, you will see, if you're driving on that road from Total Garden going towards Gate, you will see NMPC big station that is there. You see a big signage, auto clinic there. Inside there, we're making provisions already for the facility that people will use in training. Unfortunately, we have the kits ready as well that we'll use for the training, because oftentimes we want to conduct training. Lack of kits will make it impossible.
Okay. Now, let's come back to the installation.
Yes.
What happens if a CNG run car runs into a collision with another vehicle?
Okay.
Would the gas explode?
No, CNG cannot even explode. There is no record anywhere in the world of CNG exploding.
But LPG explodes.
LPG can explode. Now, this is one of the challenges. Again, it comes back to anyhowness. A lot of gas cylinders that people use should not be used anymore. They're expired. People do not know that cylinders do expire. So when you begin to store gas in a cylinder that has expired, and the expiration is more about the quality of the gas at that of the cylinder at that time, and the quality, importantly, of the check valve. Because usually when there is a rapid buildup of pressure in any gas cylinder, the check valve is supposed to release the gas, not explode, release the gas. But when you have a bad check valve on it, that just leads to that explosion, because the check valve is no longer doing what it's supposed to do on it. Now, in the case of CNG now, one, CNG doesn't explode because it has a unique property. Below 5% concentration, CNG does not burn, even if you strike a match beside it. Above 15% concentration, CNG also does not burn, even if you strike a match beside it. It's too concentrated at that time. It only burns between 5 and 15% concentration. And that is why it's only going to be able to burn in an enclosed place like inside the engine. It won't burn right outside. That's number one. Number two, when there is a collision and there is sudden release of gas, maybe one of the pipes for the CNG that takes it to the engine bursts. The moment there is that sudden rush of flow of gas, the check valve on the cylinder shuts down immediately. It's only able to allow a certain amount of gas to flow out. The moment is more than that at a time, it shuts down, protecting the system. Now, there's a video that I could share with you of the number of tests that CNG systems actually go through. They get the cylinder. The cylinder goes through a rupture test that when it falls all the way down from a height, does it even dent Answer should be no. In a collision, when the cylinder literally moves from the position it was before, does it cause explosion? No. Does it rupture? No. In fact, part of the test is that a bullet is shot at a CNG tank. And what does it do? The moment that bullet penetrated, the gas was released from that spot only. It didn't tear the cylinder apart. It only releases the gas from that spot where the hole is only. So CNG, I dare say here, is safer in vehicles than petrol.
So CNG is the game changer.
It is. It's a game changer. It's actually safer than petrol.
So if you saw President Bola Tinubu now, what would you be telling him?
Open up the CNG space in Nigeria by encouraging all players with proper regulation to do the job and provide facilities for people to get the required training to be able to do this properly. Because if you don't, they will look for corners to do it and they'll begin to mess things up for people.
You won't tell him to begin to think of manufacturing facilities
No,
for the kids.
Of course, we have to start somewhere. That's the thing. You see, when we talk about manufacturing the kits, you know it's going to come with some challenges. Some of the challenges include what we have seen already. A lot of locally manufactured goods are unable to compete in pricing with imported goods. Why? Basic infrastructure, power, water, security, manpower. So if the president says, oh, we want to start manufacturing CNG, we do not even have technicians that can install CNG on vehicles. We want them to manufacture kits. So, or do we want them to bring in foreigners to run the factories that will manufacture these CNG kits again? Is that the idea? That makes no sense. So we need to understand that we will need to I'm a proponent of backward integration. Let CNG use come. These cylinders we are using will expire. Usually, their lifespan is usually about 20 years or 25 years. At some point, these cylinders will not be useful anymore. Even if you want to move it from one vehicle to another, will not be useful. At that time, we should be ready to replace these cylinders with cheaper alternatives, locally manufactured ones. Also, by the time we have the CNG system, for example, some of my colleagues that I've been working with, I've been talking about a lot of reverse engineering we want to do in the CNG space already. Technological innovations we want to bring in. Why are we having to program this and this and this? Can we not build a kit specifically for this? We're looking at it. Or why are we installing an extra nozzle? Can we not just buy the same nozzle? Let's manufacture the same nozzle that has two entries, one for petrol, one for CNG. It will run. We're already looking at all of that here now. That these are innovations we can bring into the CNG ecosystem. But the truth is, if it is not in abundance enough, how do we do R&D? We can't do R&D on something that is not available.
So if somebody wants to reach you,
yes,
what number should they call?
Yes, it's simple. 080-999-07666 for the auto gas training. 080-999-07666. That is the main number. Just WhatsApp, call, whichever one you want to do with that number, you can reach us.
Let's get this clear. It's a hybrid system.
It's a hybrid system, yes.
So you can decide to go back to petrol.
The option is always going to be there. It's not going back. You can switch between petrol and gas. It's not going back. You're just switching.
That's why it's hybrid.
It's a hybrid. The hybrid electric vehicles that people are driving around. That's how seamless it works. You're driving. Suddenly you notice that on your cluster, it shows that, you're running on battery right now. It just shows you that you're not running on battery. And then as you're driving, it just shows you you're back on engine. That's the way it works. You don't even notice the difference. Sometimes, if the engine is running really rough, then you will notice when you are stationary that, the engine has started because I can hear the sound of the engine. That's all. That's the way it works in hybrid electric. In this case, the difference is that your engine is permanently running, and it's either running on hybrid, or it's either running on petrol or on LPG. There's not going to be any difference at that point in time. The only difference you might notice, of course, is that if you have really bad petrol, when you're switching to petrol, you now notice that this engine is not running as smooth as it was on gas. Maybe that will encourage you to fill up your gas quickly.
So, before we go, is there any way CNG will make your car run better than petrol?
Yes, it will. We've talked about that. It's in its purest form, meaning that your engine gets the right dose of gas it requires to run. Petrol must be converted to gas before it can run. That's one. Number two, is cleaner. Therefore, there is not much of blow-by gas or or carbon build up inside your engine. Now, what we have observed on vehicles we have converted to run on CNG is that they run quieter when they are on CNG than they even when they are on petrol. They're a lot quieter.
Compressed natural gas has gained popularity as an alternative fuel for vehicles due to its environmental benefits and cost effectiveness.
That's keyword.
Are you going to consider this? CNG-powered vehicles utilize natural gas stored in high-pressure cylinders as a fuel source for internal combustion engines, right?
Yes.
This technology provides a cleaner and more sustainable option compared to traditional gasoline or diesel-powered vehicles, right?
Absolutely. Yes, that's the bottom line, really. You go to Europe. Europe is heavy on gas. The gentleman that you were talking about that's online from Germany should be able to confirm to you. Germany, Holland, Belgium, Eastern European countries, they run a lot on gas. In fact, there are so many vehicles that are imported into Nigeria. This is very funny. I know a lot of people that had their vehicles that they imported, Tokumbo, from Europe into Nigeria, that had gas installed on them, and they went to go and remove it themselves. There's a lot. I mean, I'm talking about in the last 10 years, 15 years. People had been doing that a lot. In fact, some had come to us then. Please, this tank that is in my boot, just remove it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm sure a lot of them will regret doing it right now, knowing how much they will have to pay to get that system working now.
Tunde Onakoya, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
It's a pleasure as always, Edmund. And good job. Well done.
Tunde Onakoya is a mechanic. He is the founder, the chief mechanic of Auto Clinic. Okay? Attend the training. Improve your sense of technological know-how. Create a new job for yourself. I am Edmond Opilo. Thank you for listening.